everyone, I'm Blanche Shaheen, your host for Video Eye, and that's I for Independent because we bring the independent film scene to you. Now tonight, get ready for a film festival in your very own living room. We're going to bring you highlights of the 49th San Francisco International Film Festival. This year, the festival showed nearly 200 films from over 50 countries. It also attracted over 80,000 people. Now, the festival spotlights international trends in film and video production with a special emphasis on works that haven't yet secured U.S. distribution. Now, this festival has the full support of San Francisco. Mayor Gavin Newsom showed up opening night to speak, and 600 volunteers were working night and day to make sure that the event was a success. We here at Video Eye have been covering the festival for the past 5 years, and tonight we've got a groovy collection of narratives, documentary, even some cool animation for you. We even have interviews with the filmmakers that make it all happen, so let's get started. This is an experimental film that was based on something that really happened, a horrible tragedy. If you could talk about it for those in the audience that don't know.
In May of 2003, there was an incident in Texas where about 100 undocumented workers were trying to cross over into the United States, and they were crammed in the back of a tractor trailer. And Texas is a very hot state, and as a result of the conditions, there was a lot of heat exhaustion and overexposure, and 19 people died. So it was, and today it's still considered the worst case of human smuggling. It's the deadliest case of human smuggling in U.S. history.
So people were packed like sardines in this trailer, and they couldn't move, and there's probably no AC.
There was
and hot.
Yeah, it was probably really dark, very hot and humid. They punched holes in the back of the trailer in order to get air. There was everything from I think an elderly gentleman there to a 5-year-old boy and his father. And the 5-year-old boy died, the father died. It was a real horrible tragedy, and I was really moved to sort of create this film as a result of it. I'm from Texas myself, and so when this story happened, I was really moved by wanting to, sort of tell the story of what happened to these individuals.
And the method that you chose to tell the story is a little bit different. It's experimental. You really experimented with light and sound in a different way. Did you do that because it's such a painful subject that it's, how do you tackle it, and is that why?
Well, I wanted to create the visceral experience of what it might have been like for you to have that experience, because it's a human tragedy, and regardless of what your opinion is on the immigration issue, this is a human tragedy. And so what I was doing was working with trying to put the viewer in that situation of claustrophobia, of darkness, of sound, of a need to get out and banging, and then juxtaposing that with a lot of it with some news footage of the actual event. So you've got this situation where you move in terms of your perspective of being inside to being outside and seeing it as a spectator, which is how we all experience the news. We all experience this particular issue from the news, from the media. So kind of trying to bring you into it from a more personal perspective.
When you hear things on the news, sometimes you just get jaded. You're like, oh, more people died, that's terrible, but you just don't really know how that could have felt. But to really take a person inside what must have been a horrible, slow death, I mean, it must have been emotionally taxing for you as well.
I mean, it was, and like I said, I am from Texas, and as it turns out, the smuggling ring, which is currently, I think the trial might have just ended, and these people were found guilty for doing what they did because it was murder or manslaughter.
Right.
But they were based in my hometown of Brownsville, Texas.
Are you serious?
Yeah, so I was definitely like very much connected to that. Yeah, because that's something I grew up with just those issues, and knowing that this thing that happened a little bit closer towards San Antonio, Texas. I'm from farther south, but that they were based in my hometown. I definitely had a very personal connection to that also. But
definitely.
Yeah.
Well, how have people responded so far when they see that?
It's showed in a few places. It's going to be showing in Europe, I think, next month.
Congratulations.
And thank you. And it's I'm glad that it's getting sort of wider exposure. I think that people do have really strong visceral reactions to it because they are put in that situation. It's just starting to get out there. So it's playing in some Latino festivals, a lot of experimental festivals, and I'm really glad that different audiences are sort of getting access to this story and to the memory of these 19 people who died.
Is smuggling still a pretty widespread problem?
Yes, it's all over
still
the
like
border.
as we speak, there are people being smuggled in this
Totally.
fashion like sardines.
Yeah.
What do you think might be? I mean, I know this is a big question, so but I'll ask it just to hear your perspective. What do you think could be the solution to this problem?
Amnesty for all undocumented workers.
So these are workers that are smuggled in, I mean, with full knowledge that, there are people in the United States that are waiting to hire them. And this is the way that they have full knowledge of everything. They know. I'm talking about the employers.
Oh yeah, I mean sometimes they do, sometimes they don't. I mean it's such a big issue to try to tackle, and I think that for me it was just trying to, like I said, it is such a complex issue, and there are opinions on both sides. People who feel that undocumented workers shouldn't be here, that they should, with what's happening right now with legislation to make all undocumented people felons, and so it's such a big issue. But for me, what's important is just bringing it down to the human story. That if someone can understand that experience and have compassion for that particular issue, it might sort of kind of bring another take to this big issue.